Hi, everyone. My name's Tim,
And I'm Anna.
and we're the co-race directors for the Rib Mountain Adventure Challenge. We're going to cover in this pre-race meeting video the rules and give a general course overview. Once again this year, we're the largest adventure race in the United States. Over 450 racers have registered, coming from multiple states, a huge age range from like 6 to 70 years old, dozen plus teams, or almost 22 dozen teams in the family division, and a strong showing of both male and female racers in the event. We are a fundraiser for UWSP scholarships, where I teach music, as well as a fundraiser for the organization Iron Bull to help us put this event on, and gives money charitably to other organizations such as the Parks Foundation. Welcome back to many veteran adventure racers who will be here racing. Some of you, like us, have been racing for 20 plus years. There'll be a former national championship competing in this race. So welcome to all those veteran racers. It'll be great to see familiar faces out on the course. Welcome also to new racers. We started adventure racing in the early 2000s. So it's been 20 years now, and we first got hooked by watching a show called the Eco Challenge back in the 1990s, and being just infatuated with the sport and looking to find one locally. And we found one at the time in the early 2000s in Wisconsin. So we're thrilled to be carrying on that tradition. And over half of you that are registered for this race, this is your first or second adventure race ever. So congrats for taking on this awesome endeavor. We're so excited for you to get into this sport that we love.
We also want to say thank you to our volunteers. We've got about 40, 50 people volunteering this year. And new folks who are getting into this sport need to realize that this isn't anybody's full-time job. All the race directors in the Wisconsin series have full-time jobs and other commitments in life. And we take the time and do this because we love it. And we want to share it with all of you. And our volunteers do too. So they're taking a lot of time out of their weekend just to be out there to help support you and having a great time.
Yeah, so please thank volunteers when you see them on the course. We're all volunteers. No one gets paid to put on this event. We donate 100% of the net profits to scholarships and to the Iron Bull organization. Thank you to our sponsors for the support that went out in race update number 1 and number 2. Thank you to all those sponsors, as well as to Iron Bull for the support in putting on this event. The Wisconsin Adventure Racing Series, if you haven't checked out the website of all the adventure races in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois, it's a great series of events with great people putting on those races. Make sure to check out those races. To the United States Adventure Racing Association for their great support, as well as the AR World Series North American Circuit for getting word of our race out there in a larger capacity to not just the Midwest, but across the nation and across all of North America. Thank you also for the equipment support from Badger Orienteering Club. Thanks particularly to Derek and Liz and Tracy, who carted the Badger stuff from the last event last weekend up to us here in Wausau, to the Minnesota Orienteering Club, and to Paula and Julie from 180 Adventure for renting the checkpoints and the e-punch system and all that goes into that. So some highlights from the rules. Please make sure generally you read through them very carefully. The rules are there for your safety, for the safety of the crew and the community, and to maintain fairness between teams and racers. Rules, of course, in this sport can be different from race to race, and not every race director has the exact same rules, so make sure you look through them. Especially if this is your first adventure race, you need to know this is not a closed course. No roads on the course are closed or off limits to the public. So you will certainly run into public either driving around in cars or out recreating as well, enjoying a nice holiday weekend. So be sure to share the trails and the roadways out on the water as well. Be courteous to members of the public who are also out enjoying the outdoors. Follow the rules of the road, certainly on bicycle in terms of stop signs, stop lights, all that stuff. And be very careful crossing busy roads. The 3-hour doesn't really have to worry about that too much, but in the 8 and 18-hour, there's a couple busy road stretches you'll be on. Please be careful on those busy road sections. If you're on a paved road, please do ride single file. Make sure, even if it is during the daytime, have that red flashing light on. It just makes you more visible. If it gets cloudy all of a sudden, or if a storm were to roll in, that red rear flashing light really makes you discernible to an oncoming car from behind. There are lots of racers, which also means there's lots of gear. So please make sure you keep your bikes in designated bike areas at transition areas. Put your paddle gear where it's supposed to go, label it, keep it bundled together, keep your team stuff all in one place so you can keep track of your gear and we don't lose anyone's stuff, or you don't lose track of where you set your stuff. one rule to bring attention to, and it's just a tricky thing in the sport. You're of course supposed to stick together as a team, and our rule is you need to be within 100 feet of your team at all times. Certainly in the boats, that's not a problem, but sometimes on foot, there can be a point that's off 200 meters down a trail. You can't just leave a couple people at the end of the trail and say, hey, you just go run and grab that and come back. We'll wait here. The team has to continue on, and the maximum distance you can be apart is 100 feet. So don't send a runner or a biker just to go grab a checkpoint and come back. You all need to go up there too. If you notice teams not following the rules, just give them a friendly reminder. And if it seems really flagrant, maybe make a note of their team number and report that to race staff, who will make a note about that. Please be respectful of private property. On your maps, there'll be areas kind of marked over with like a red surface over that area, red coloring over the entire area of the map, that those are off limits areas. That means we don't have access to those private lands for those areas. But there are other areas that you might see a sign out that in the woods that says private property that we do have access to. So if we haven't shaded an area, especially if it's got checkpoints or trails on it, we do have access to a few different sets of private property for this event, and those should be good to go. Particularly for 8 and 18-hour racers, there's going to be one gate you pass on a trekking section that almost like it says things like absolutely no trespassing, even if you think you have permission. And it also says smile, you're on camera. We definitely have permission to use that. Don't let that scare you. In fact, the owner told me that's an old sign. It's not even his. It was the previous landowner sign. Just forget, he just hasn't removed it yet. So don't worry about that. We do have permission for those areas that aren't shaded in red on your maps. It'll be very apparent when you get your maps.
You do need to obtain checkpoints by the mode of travel specified. So that means paddle points need to be obtained by boat. You can't go get checkpoints on your bike, and you can't get bike points by your boat. The only exception to this is sometimes on the bike, there might be moments where you need to drop your bike nearby and just run into the woods a short distance and punch a point, and that's totally okay.
Let's talk a little bit about how teams are ranked in this sport. So there'll be a certain amount of checkpoints on the course. The team that gets the most checkpoints is the team that wins. It's not necessarily the first team to the finish line, because if your team ended up skipping 1 or 2 points and finishes an hour earlier than everyone else, you'll be ranked behind any team that gets more checkpoints. And then if there are multiple teams that either clear the course or tie with a certain amount of maximum checkpoints, the secondary ranking is your time, is how quickly you finish the race. So first ranking is number of checkpoints followed by time. There's the course format for the 3-hour event is what we call a choose your own adventure style course, which means when you get your instructions, you'll have a choice. Do we want to start first on bike? Do we want to head to the paddle section? Or do we want to start on foot? And you'll have an option of kind of how to do those different sections. Again, as Anna just said, you can't, while you're on a bike section, go bike and get the trek points. If you're leaving on bike, you have to head toward bike checkpoints or toward where you're headed and save those trek points only for when your bike is in the bike corral in the bike drop area. For each of our courses, let me back up for a second. The 8 and the 18-hour race are more linear, meaning there'll be one section you start with, and you'll have to proceed to the next section, and then the next section after that. Within each individual section, within Trek 1 or Trek 2 or Bike 1 or Bike 2, those checkpoints can be done in any order. For some, there might be an obvious flow. For some, it might be any order you want, but each section of the race is more linear for both the 8 and the 18-hour courses this year. We expect on all 3 races, multiple teams to be able to clear the course. But that being said, if you're a newer team, that might not be your ultimate goal of clearing the course. You might decide strategically to skip some harder or checkpoints that are further away to make sure you get to the finish line on time. For every minute that you're late to the finish area, you actually lose a checkpoint. So you'd hate to go out there and get 22 checkpoints, but then be 8 minutes late and lose 8 of them. So make sure you're back on time. That's the most important thing in either 8 hours, 18 hours, or 4 hours in case of what we call the 3-hour race. We call it that because it's going to be clearable in well under 3, maybe even close to 2, 2.5 for a really fast team that nails the navigation. So there's lots of points out there, and you might want to be strategic about what ones to skip. Certainly on the 8-hour and the 18-hour particularly. For newer teams, that it's a long course. It'll be clearable by the top few, we think, but not by a majority of teams. So yeah, 18-hour racers, you might want to think about not doing all of the big treks, Trek 1 or 2. You might want to save some time and skip some of those outlier points. on either the opening trek or the middle long trek in the race. The main thing, get to the finish line by your cutoff time. There are multiple gear drops as indicated in the race update. You want to talk about those?
Sure. For the 8 and 18-hour racers, you should have gotten the locations of the gear drops with the update. The 18-hour race is just, you'll drop your bikes before you check in at Ridge Road, I believe, on the north side there. That'll be clear on your maps. The 8-hour racers will drop their bikes before they check in just off of Abandoned River Road. There's a yard waste dump site that we'll be stationed at. That's where your gear drop is. And 3-hour racers, you're going to stage your bikes at headquarters before the race begins.
Just west of where is marked as headquarters on the map and race update.
Open field there, and race staff will direct you to where you can stage your bikes. For the paddle, if you choose to bring your own personal paddle gear, that's for the 8 and 18-hour racers. Race volunteers will transport your gear back to headquarters, so it'll be waiting for you when you finish the race. 18-hour racers will drop your paddle gear in a designated area at the end of the paddle. And 8-hour racers who bring their own paddle gear, you will have to carry it for about 1 kilometer on foot to the next transition area. So that's the only time when you would have to carry your own gear.
And it's on a road, so you don't have to like bushwhack with it or anything. It's just down a road for okay.
3-hour racers, you are required to use the race provided paddle gear. You can't bring your own gear. There will be youth PFDs available for kids from the canoe outfitter, but the one exception is if you do have a PFD that fits your child and you want to bring that, that's perfectly fine. But apart from that, just use the canoe gear provided by the outfitter. For 4-person family teams with 2 or more small children, you might choose to put all 4 of you in one canoe if you feel safer that way, and that's also fine. In terms of parking on race day, please try to park as close as you can to the next person over. Parking is a little limited where we are, so we just want to fit as many of us into the parking area as possible. It'll be very close to headquarters where you're parking, and if that lot fills up, you can just park on the side of the road leading up to the parking lot, and that's fine. There is camping available on site. It's all dispersed camping, and you should see that big circle area on your headquarters map that we sent out as well. You can just camp anywhere in there. There's bathrooms and showers nearby. You can just park right along the road close to where you're camping, and that's fine. The cost is $10 per tent, and our host, Elvis, will collect the cash from you that evening. There is a pre-race Friday dinner and Saturday breakfast that's optional. That'll be at race headquarters. It's $15 cash for dinner, and that's just a pasta dinner with salad bar and things. And then breakfast is just $5 cash for a breakfast sandwich and coffee. But if you want that, you do have to fill out the online form ahead of time so we can plan. So just make sure to do that if you want either of those options.
And by the way, that camping circle on the map is very just rough. Our host, we're the only ones here at this facility this weekend, and our host told us they can just camp wherever. So if you just want to find a spot, somewhere near there, anything is fine. It's very loose.
For check-in, make sure all of your team members are present when you check in. You'll get a team bag with your race bibs and t-shirts. You'll get your individual swag, your map packet and instructions, and any pre-purchase merchandise. We'll have that for you at check-in as well. Your individual bags will have safety pins, red-eye coupons, other flyers and goodies in there. And then every racer will get a raffle ticket for some really cool backpacks and hip packs from Out There Packs donated by Mike Closer, and some other raffle items from Women of AR. We had to get our t-shirt order in by May 4th. So we did order some extra shirts.
I think we have enough for everyone.
We do. Okay,
I think we have enough
great.
for everyone.
Okay, good.
Yep.
There's a chance if you registered after May 4th, we might not, but hopefully we're in good shape with that. So after you've gone through check-in, you're going to get a team photo, and then get ready to race.
So for the 8-hour racers, there'll be a staggered check-in as indicated on the last race update, and it's solos and 3 to 4-person teams will check in the earlier wave, followed by 2-person teams, and then in the wave following that. Just make sure you check for what wave you're in, just to spread out those teams
And that's just for the 8-hour racers.
Yeah. So then when you check in, you'll get that race packet. And what's going to be included in there is a set of race instructions, a set of maps, and your e-punch finger stick. That's how you're going to keep track of what checkpoints you've been to. There's the finger stick. The maps are waterproof. The instructions are not. So we'd recommend using a map case to keep those instructions dry. You might want to too, just with the maps, just to keep them in good shape. Maps are mainly going to be USGS and road maps for like road biking with maybe one aerial map in there, depending what race you're in. Control descriptions on the USGS topographic maps could include control features like a saddle, which is a low point between two hilltops, or a reentrant, which is like a drainage off of a hill or off a high area draining down. There's multiple depressions on the map. A depression feature is like a low-lying area, so it's kind of the opposite of a hilltop. There's going to be hilltops, spurs, which are high areas sloping downhill, as well as some ridges. So there's quite a bit of topography. And if you don't know those words, saddle, reentrant, depression, spur, ridge, you might want to look at what those look like on a topographic map ahead of the race. There'll be a couple off-limits roads marked with X's, red X's. Please stay off those either for safety reasons or because they're private roads. And again, avoid any of the area marked in red on the maps that are private property. Anna showed the e-punch stick. So what you'll be looking for in the woods is a checkpoint flag that'll look like this. It'll be hanging at that checkpoint location. And on top, you'll see this electronic box with a hole in the top of it. What you do is you take your e-punch stick and you put it in that hole. It'll beep and flash. Just needs to beep once. And that'll keep track on the stick that you were at that location. It'll mark a timestamp on there. So you'll need to do that, confirm it either flashes or beeps or both at every checkpoint you go to.
We would recommend securing this to your wrist, just in case. There is a little finger loop for it. But if you're paddling or something, occasionally these get lost. And I think if it does happen to get lost, I think it's $52.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
To replace. So make sure it's secure.
Yep, secure it to your person. Yep. 8 and 18-hour racers, it is a orienteering style rolling start, which means you can start, the way you start your race is you take your e-stick and you punch just like on this checkpoint, the start box at any time that you want to start in the start window time. So basically, once you're at the start location, I'll just say that way. Once you're at the start location, then you punch the start box and your race time will start. What you need to remember to do when you punch the start time is someone or multiple people on your team should note what time it is in your watch or start a stopwatch, because your time limit starts from when you punch that start box, either 8 hours or 18 hours later. 3-hour teams, you don't need to worry about punching a start box. It is a mass start for the 3-hour race. You all start at 1 p.m. sharp. So again, watch your time, 1 CP for every minute you're late after that time. We have trackers for every 18-hour team. We'll include a video of how to where to put that tracker and best location for the tracker in Race Update 3 that you can take a look at. Just a short video provided by our tracker company. You'll get that tracker when you check in. Again, those are also very expensive. Please turn those in when you leave. The other cool thing is if you have friends and family at home that want to watch your progress, starting at 10:30 p.m., those trackers will go live and they can follow your progress through the night and through Saturday afternoon, evening when you finish the race. So share that link with them. There was also a few 8-hour teams that pre-registered to rent a tracker. Those trackers have already been sent, so there's not time to add one at this point, but those 8-hour teams, you also have a link, and you should also check out how to wear that tracker if you rented one during the registration process. There are porta potties and bathrooms available at various parks and transition areas throughout the course. Otherwise, if there's not at the spot you're at, there's thousands of acres of land just 10 feet off the trail. So you might want to bring some toilet paper or something like that in one of your team's race backpacks to carry with you. There is water available at many of the TAs on the 18-hour course. The 3-hour course, you should plan to have your water with you for the entirety of the race. You shouldn't plan to fill up. And 8-hour racers, you should be able to get through at least the first 5 or 6 hours of the course. There won't be water until you're about 5 or 6 hours into the course, depending on how fast you move through the course. So don't just bring enough water for the first 2 or 3 hours. I can tell you right now that first transition area will not have water for you.
That said, you might, with the weather looking like it is, you might not need, it's
gonna be
that much.
It'll be on the cooler
water.
side this year.
Yeah. So for Friday night, it's looking like the low is going to be 40 degrees. High of about in the mid 60s on Saturday, with a chance of rain.
And that
On
chance of
Friday
rain,
night.
yeah, Friday night. So
Yeah.
maybe just affecting the 18-hour. Hopefully not. Hopefully we'll be clear of that.
But also weather has been changing by the hour. So make sure to check the weather before race day and plan accordingly. So we've been out planning the course quite a bit this last week. It is really buggy out there. The mosquitoes are out, the ticks are really out. So make sure to tuck your pants into your socks, tuck your shirt into your pants, and check yourselves really well after the race is over. For emergency procedures. So if somebody is having an emergency, if you see another team in need of help, please stop and help them. Just keep note of your time, how long you spent helping them, and we will honor that and reimburse you at the end of the race. The fire department and EMS have been notified of the race, so there will be somebody nearby in case of like a life-threatening emergency. But do keep in mind that as adventure racers, you are expected to be self-sufficient. So you need to be able to take care of injuries, things that happen out on the course, and be able to self-rescue. So we can't come out to rescue you if you bump your head, if you sprain your knee, if you get tired, or if you're lost. You need to be able to take care of your own team. If you do have a true emergency, or if somebody is really injured, please call 911 and just follow the emergency procedures in your racer packet. And then notify race staff if you need to drop out of the race for any reason, so we're not out there searching for you. But overall, you just need to be able to come back to headquarters by your own power.
And to clarify, we'll
Yeah.
reimburse you with a time credit if you were to
Yes.
stop and help someone. If someone breaks a bone or something and you need to call 911 or help them out, like, yeah, just note your time and we'll give you time credit back at the end of the race. Make sure you've looked at the mandatory gear list. You need to have all those mandatory gear items and be prepared for a mandatory gear check on the course. I'll mention, especially with the weather, the 18-hour is indeed required to carry a waterproof jacket with a hood and an insulating long sleeve top and insulating hat. Those 40-degree temperatures are a bit chilly, and there's, you never know. There's a couple teams that tipped over in the river section last year. I think this is a much more wide open river section, but there is still one section of class 1 to 2 rapids that you'll be paddling at night on the 18-hour course. So if you got wet and cold, you need those clothes to keep you warm enough. 18-hour racers, you'll also certainly be biking at night in the dark, so you got to have that red flashing light on when you're out on the bike, particularly at night, I guess really throughout the whole course. For 18-hour racers, I'd highly recommend having the person in the front of your canoe, or if you're solo in a kayak, have a bright headlamp. Again, there's that one section of class 1 to 2 rapids. It's about 30 minutes into the paddle. It'll be marked on your map. At night, it's probably going to sound worse than it is. I would recommend just staying river center and just weaving around the rocks. We got a lot of rain here in Wausau and up in Rhinelander these last couple of days. So I'm in touch with the company that runs the dam just to kind of see when that dam release is going to happen over the next week, to see what water levels will be like. And that of course affects the rocks being above or below water, but just a heads up to be ready to navigate around those rocks so you don't hit one sideways as you're coming through that section. A bright light will really help you with that. As we sent out, and I think it was race update one or two, no GPS watches allowed on your wrist unless they're in AR mode. If you want to like start a watch that doesn't have any screen display on it and put it in your backpack because you're used to tracking it for Strava, that's okay. Just don't take it out. It's in poor taste to have a watch out that displays things like pace or distance and against the rules of the sport. So make sure you don't have that on your wrist unless it's in a Garmin certified AR mode, which won't display those things. There's pretty decent cell coverage in the area. It depends on your service provider. If you were in an emergency and you don't have service, a text will always send better to race staff than a phone call if you don't have service. And of course, if you find some others to help you, get to a high point to get better cell coverage. When you check into a transition area, many transition areas will have a checkpoint that you punch to show you're at that transition area. Please also check in with your team number. You'll be given your team number at race check-in. And instead of giving team name, the way that all the volunteers have their sheets organized is by team number only. So give them your team number when you check into a transition area. We also have a prize each year for the team in each race that collects the most trash out on the course in the woods. Some areas have been immaculately clean. Some areas of the course, particularly in the 18-hour, have some sections with quite a bit of stuff out there. So we award the team that turns in the most trash. So every time you check into a manned transition area, the volunteer will tally any number of pieces of trash you show them that you've collected that you're throwing away. As a reminder, when you are paddling, you must wear PFDs at all time. There's the center thwart, which is that wood beam that helps move the canoe. Please do not sit on that. Please also do not drag the boats. Make sure you carry them. They're really nice canoes from a great rental provider. We want to keep a good relationship with them. When finished with paddling, just follow the volunteers' instructions of where to place the boat. Make sure you wear your helmets while you are on bicycles. And at all times when you're on bike, make sure that helmet is buckled. 18 and 8-hour racers, when you leave that bike drop, just a reminder, don't leave anything behind. Everything comes with you except for paddle gear, if that's the case in the 18-hour. There is a special challenge for the 3-hour and 8-hour racers that will take place at headquarters. There's one e-punch there. Don't forget to punch the e-punch after you've done that special challenge. We've never had any checkpoints go missing. I think in the 8 years we've done this course, they've always all been there. The ones in more high traffic areas, we typically lock to a tree. But if you're like sure you're in the right area, there is always that possibility that a checkpoint could have been stolen, or we've even had another race director have one stolen by a bear, and she found it 100 meters away all torn up. I saw a couple bears out on the course the other day, so they're out there. We don't think checkpoints will be stolen, but if you know you're in the right spot and the checkpoint isn't there and you've looked around, know that we'll remove it from the course and remove it from the results if it indeed wasn't there. But be sure before you move on.
So again, we'll have our photographers out on the course this year. Ann and Lee from Ann and Lee Photography will be out in the thick of it with you all photographing. So if you see them, say hello. And we'll have all those photos available for you after the race. We'll have a post-race meal at headquarters from 3 to 6 p.m.
And that's provided. You just
you should have a ticket, right?
You'll have a ticket for a post-race meal. Yep.
Yeah. So just give them your ticket. We'll also have red eye beer again, and athletic non-alcoholic beer, soda, and water. You'll get 1 ticket stub per racer for a meal, and that'll be in your swag bag that you pick up at registration and just turn in as your meal ticket. If you want seconds, you can purchase seconds or thirds with cash. And of course, spectators and family can purchase a meal with cash if they'd like to as well. We've got really cool finisher medals. Do you want to grab the medals and shirts to
They'll
show?
all see them on Saturday.
You'll see them on Saturday. Yeah, the medals are really cool this year. The t-shirts are also very cool. The design is awesome. Although we had some supply issues where some of them turned out one yellow color and some of them turned out a different yellow color.
There's about 3 shades of yellow.
So there you go.
I hope you're happy with the shade of yellow that was your size.
Sometimes what happens when you're planning events and things don't quite go as planned. So again, yeah, we've got the raffle, so stick around for that. Really some cool raffle prizes have been donated. Some
awesome like $150, $200 backpacks that Out There USA donated that are really fantastic racing backpacks, all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, really cool Women of AR jersey and gloves. Yeah. So yeah. We'll have stuff for sale after the race. This year for awards and also for purchase, we'll have these really cool little berry or ice cream bowls. Again, there we go. And we'll have some mugs from last year also available for purchase. I think they're like $25.
$25. Yep.
Something.
And we have hats this year.
Hats, yes. 2 colors of hats.
With cool topography on them. Those are $30. There's a pretty limited supply. I think we got 15 or 20 of them.
Yeah. So if you want that, those will be there. There'll also be stickers, Iron Bowl swag, t-shirts, and some other good stuff.
And that stuff will also be for sale, I think, from 3:30 to 6:30 at headquarters.
And we're hoping to have everything tallied and results up by 6 p.m. So
be sure to check out other races in the Wisconsin Adventure Racing Series. A couple weeks after ours is the 4-hour and 10-hour Code Blue Challenge. Late in June is on June 29th is the 180 Adventure Stubborn Mule. That is a 5-hour, 12-hour, and 30-hour race up in Cable, Wisconsin. Minox event will be coming up in July. I think location is still TBD, though I heard Western Minnesota, Eastern Minnesota, possibly Western Wisconsin. And then our fall events, the Milwaukee Area Fall Frenzy, is on November 2nd. That's a 3-hour, 8-hour, and 18-hour. And then back this year on a new time and date, Here we go. On Saturday, December 7th is the Rib Mountain Adventure Challenge Winter Edition with a couple different new formats and distances this year. So mark your calendars for all those great Wisconsin Adventure Racing Series events.
And also, this is our 9th year putting on this race, not counting the COVID year. So next year will be 10 years. So yeah, make sure to catch next year for sure.
We can tell you already, it's Memorial Day weekend of 2025. So mark your calendars for an awesome 10th year anniversary coming up already. Lastly, we're going to have a live Q&A session on Zoom. The link is in Race Update 3. It's going to be Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. If you can't get on Zoom to ask questions, but you want to watch the video of questions, we will record it and send out the link. All right, we got an awesome course for you all. It's going to be some really cool navigation, beautiful areas in the Northwoods up there. Just, yeah, the views abound. It'll be fantastic. So we can't wait to see you all on Friday or Saturday. All right, thanks, everybody.